1.5 tons of submerged mussel can kill more people per year than any single feline in the savannah. A horn made of pure keratin is worth more than gold to international traffickers. A single animal can knock down entire trees just to reach leaves that no other herbivore could touch. A giant nearly 6 meters tall reaches treetops that seem inaccessible, feeding where no other herbivore can go. With over 3 tons of strength and a devastating bite, one of Africa's largest mammals becomes one of the continent's most dangerous animals. 5 species, 5 records of brute strength that African nature took millions of years to perfect. Each species has developed specific adaptations to the habitat it occupies. Elephants and buffalo move between savanna and forest. Giraffes dominate open, shrubby grasslands. Hippos depend directly on permanent bodies of water. And rhinoceroses occupy both savanna and semi-arid areas, depending on the specific species considered. Wildlife tourism focused on these 5 animals, historically grouped under the commercial moniker of the Big Five, sustains one of the most valuable industries in all of sub-Saharan Africa. Countries like South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Namibia, and Botswana have developed entire tourism infrastructures around the promise of sighting these 5 specific species within a single safari trip. This revenue directly funds anti-poaching patrols, population monitoring programs, and community development in areas adjacent to national parks. Although the commercial term Big Five has historical origins linked to the difficulty and danger of hunting these species, not to any strictly scientific classification criteria. No African herbivore carries a reputation as fearsome as this one. The African buffalo, despite its strictly herbivorous diet based on grazing grass, is frequently described by experienced guides and hunters as one of the most unpredictable and potentially dangerous animals in the entire African savanna. Particularly solitary old males expelled from the main group, who develop a specific reputation for aggressive and vengeful behavior in the face of any perceived threat, real or merely suspected. Horns fused at the base, forming a structure known as a boss that can exceed 90 centimeters in combined width, function simultaneously as a protective helmet during territorial confrontations between males and as a formidable offensive weapon against predators that dare to attack individuals isolated from the herd. The social structure of buffalo, organized into herds that can number in the hundreds moving collectively across open savanna, reveals extraordinary cooperative defensive behavior. When a member of the group is attacked by predators, especially lions, other buffalo often respond collectively, surrounding the predator and using the combined force of multiple individuals to repel the attack. A behavior that occasionally results in the death of the attacking predator itself when the herd manages to organize quickly enough to intervene before the initial attack is successfully completed. Buffaloes retain lasting social memory of specific negative experiences, with researchers documenting cases of individuals exhibiting heightened defensive behavior, specifically in areas where previous traumatic experiences, such as hunting attempts or human persecution, occurred in the past, suggesting a significantly more sophisticated spatial and temporal associative capacity than traditionally attributed to large herbivores. The symbiotic relationship between buffalo and birds, known as great kiskadés or cattle egrets, which feed on ticks and other parasites found on the buffalo skin, represents a mutually beneficial ecological partnership. The buffalo receives natural control of external parasites, while the birds obtain a reliable food source, in addition to occasionally functioning as an early warning system. reacting with alarm calls to suspicious movement of nearby predators that the buffalo itself has not yet visually detected. A horn made from the same protein that makes up human fingernails is worth more on the illegal market than pure gold. The African rhinoceros carries a structure of pure keratin on its snout, without an internal bony core which grows continuously throughout the animal's life, functioning both as a tool for territorial defense and, unfortunately, as the main target of one of the most devastating illegal hunting crises in the recent history of African conservation. The demand for rhinoceros horn in Asian markets, fueled by traditional beliefs without any scientific basis regarding medicinal properties, has raised the illegal commercial value of this material to levels that, by weight, exceed the international price of gold and cocaine in certain recent periods. The behavioral difference between the two main species reveals distinct ecological adaptations. White rhinoceroses, despite the name which actually derives from a mistranslation of the Afrikaans word for broad, referring to the shape of their lip adapted for grazing in open fields, tend to be more sociable and tolerant of the proximity of other individuals of the same species. Black rhinoceroses, in turn, have a pointed and prehensile upper lip specifically adapted for foraging on taller shrubby vegetation, and demonstrate significantly more solitary and territorially aggressive behavior compared to the white species. Intensive conservation programs, including controlled preventive dehorning to reduce attractiveness to poachers, constant veterinary monitoring, and armed anti-poaching patrols in strategically selected national parks, have managed to stabilize and, in some specific populations, even partially reverse decades of catastrophic population decline that brought the species to the brink of complete extinction in certain regions of the African continent over the past few decades. The relatively limited vision of rhinoceroses, compensated for by exceptionally developed senses of smell and hearing, explains the species' characteristic defensive behavior. When faced with a threat that is not fully identified, rhinoceroses frequently charge directly towards the source of the disturbance, an efficient defensive strategy against traditional natural predators, but one that historically has tragically facilitated hunting using modern firearms employed by hunters positioned at a safe distance. But even with all this specific vulnerability to the valuable horn, there is an African giant whose reputation for unpredictability and aggressiveness surpasses even that of predators traditionally considered more dangerous by popular perception. No one expects Africa's most dangerous animal to spend the entire day in the water. Despite its seemingly peaceful appearance and predominantly aquatic behavior during the hottest hours of the day, the hippopotamus is responsible for more human deaths annually in Africa than lions, elephants, and buffalo combined. A statistic that consistently surprises visitors accustomed to associating extreme danger only with traditional carnivorous predators. Extreme territoriality regarding specific bodies of water, combined with a jaw capable of exerting one of the most powerful bite forces ever documented among terrestrial mammals, explains why accidental encounters with hippos often result in far more serious consequences than equivalent confrontations with predators traditionally considered more dangerous. Despite their seemingly heavy and clumsy bodies, hippos can run on land at speeds exceeding 30 kilometers per hour in short bursts, constantly surprising visitors who completely underestimate the animal's true mobility out of the water. At night, hippos emerge from the rivers and lakes where they spend the entire day submerged, traveling distances that can exceed 8 kilometers in search of terrestrial vegetation, consuming large quantities of grass before returning to the relative safety of the water before the following dawn. The hippopotamus's skin secretes a natural reddish substance, popularly described as blood sweat, which actually functions as a natural sunscreen and an agent with scientifically proven antibacterial properties, protecting the animal's extremely sensitive skin from severe sunburn during periods when it remains partially exposed out of the water. This specific secretion, chemically distinct from any equivalent substance found in other African mammals, represents a unique evolutionary adaptation for survival in an environment that combines intense sun exposure with a constant need for dermal protection. The social structure of hippos, organized into territorial groups led by dominant males who control specific stretches of river or lake, involves violent territorial disputes between rival males, using canines that can exceed 50 centimeters in length in confrontations that occasionally result in serious injury or death of one of the competitors, revealing a level of intraspecific aggression significantly higher than that observed among most other species of herbivorous megafauna in Africa. But even this territorial aquatic giant occasionally faces direct confrontation with another terrestrial colossus, whose horn represents today one of the greatest conservation tragedies in all of African wildlife. No neck on Earth stretches as far as this one. The giraffe, the tallest land animal on the planet, has developed a neck that can exceed 2 meters in length, supported by only 7 cervical vertebrae. Exactly the same number present in the human spine, each of them, however, significantly elongated over millions of years of selective evolutionary pressure. This extreme elongation requires an equally exceptional cardiovascular system. The heart of an adult giraffe can weigh more than 10 kilograms and generate blood pressure approximately twice that of a human, specifically necessary to pump blood to the brain located so far from the body. This exceptional height offers a decisive feeding advantage. Giraffes can reach foliage in acacia canopies that no other terrestrial herbivore in the savannah can touch, almost completely eliminating direct competition for food resources with other large species that share the same habitat. The giraffe's tongue, which can exceed 45 centimeters in length and has a dark coloration that protects against prolonged sunburn, manipulates thorny branches with remarkable precision, allowing for selective leaf extraction while avoiding thorns that could injure more sensitive oral tissue. The pattern of spots on each individual giraffe's coat is completely unique, functioning as a visual fingerprint that allows for precise individual identification by field researchers over extended behavioral studies. Recent research reveals that giraffes maintain lasting social relationships among specific females, contradicting the historical assumption that the species only formed temporary and superficial groupings without significant social bonds between individuals. Despite their impressive height and apparent vulnerability during the characteristic movement of their elongated legs, adult giraffes defend themselves with a frontal kick, capable of fracturing the skull of predators that get too close. A defensive capability that explains why successful attacks against healthy adult giraffes remain relatively rare, even in territories shared with large predatory felines. While the giraffe reigns supreme above the treetops, vertically dominating the open savanna landscape, another African colossus occupies the absolute top spot among all terrestrial animals on the planet. No muscle on the savanna lifts as much weight as this trunk. The African elephant, the largest land mammal on the planet, uses its trunk, a structure composed of more than 40,000 distinct muscle units, without any bone in its composition, to perform tasks ranging from tearing entire branches from sturdy trees to delicately collecting a single leaf without damaging the surrounding plant. This extreme versatility of simultaneous strength and precision has no functional equivalent in any other known anatomical structure in the animal kingdom, allowing the same appendage to serve both for demonstrations of brute force and for extremely delicate manipulation of small objects. The social structure of elephants, centered on matriarchs who lead family groups through knowledge accumulated over decades about water location, seasonal migration routes, and recognition of specific threats, reveals one of the most sophisticated collective memory systems documented among terrestrial mammals. Older matriarchs, some exceeding 60 years of age, demonstrate the ability to recall specific locations of water sources visited decades earlier, knowledge that becomes crucial during periods of severe drought, when alternative water sources become essential for the survival of the entire family group. The ecological impact of elephants on the African landscape is so significant that researchers classify them as a keystone species in ecosystem engineering. By knocking down trees and shrubs while foraging, elephants maintain open savannas that would otherwise be gradually colonized by dense tree vegetation, indirectly benefiting grazing herbivore species that depend on open fields for survival. This active landscape transformation, repeated over generations, literally shapes the vegetation topography of entire regions of the continent. Communication among elephants includes infrasonic vocalizations, below the limit of human hearing, capable of propagating over distances that can exceed 10 kilometers across open terrain, allowing coordination between separated family groups that no other sense could sustain over that same distance. This long-range communication capability reveals a social complexity that rivals the communication systems of other large mammals considered cognitively sophisticated. But this same collective intelligence and exceptional physical strength do not completely protect elephants from a threat that operates on a completely different bodily scale, represented by another giant that shares the same Savannah territory. If this journey through Africa's 5 giants surprised you, subscribe to the channel to follow the next expeditions, leave a like, and share with someone who also needs to get to know these 5 extraordinary species.